1988 was the last year that EPCOT got an additional country represented in the World Showcase.
I didn't know where you were going with that. I thought you were going to wish me like a happy birthday. Even though it's like really early.
Yeah, I can't do that. I'm Swedish and that's bad luck. We've talked about this.
Very good.
I'm glad you remember that.
I do.
Great.
I do remember you're Swedish.
Of course, 1988 was when Norway debuted at the World Showcase at EPCOT, and it was the 11th country to be showcased. And ever since then, nothing's been added. Obviously, Disney wanted a lot more countries represented. They have a huge amount of space that has just been waiting to be tapped. If you do any research on any of the creation of World Showcase, you find out that Disney had a really rough time not just courting the countries, but getting them to pay for building their sections for the park, which is why a lot of plans ended up falling through and why a lot of proposed attractions never came to be. But now is a big anniversary coming up, and they want to add something really special, something that a lot of people are going to want. What is it? What country is it? Will there be a ride? Will there be more dining opportunities? Will there be shopping? What podcast is this?
I've been waiting very patiently for the answer to all of those questions. This is the Party of Two podcast, a theme parks podcast hosted by a married couple slowly losing their minds. We've been talking about EPCOT for 2 months. And though to be fair, that is how long the line for Hagrid's Magical Motorbike Adventure has been, and we just haven't gotten in line yet. Nope. Mostly because we've been walking around World Showcase for 2 months. But other than that, I'm one of your hosts, the Internet's Mark B. Donica.
And I'm your very lost host, the Internet's Andrea Donica.
I've done that too. There were previous episodes, I think we cut it out, where you were just like, introduce the show. But at least you left it open. Like, you were like, what podcast is this? And I was like, oh, has this just been leading to a big, like, woof. I mean, we have the title, we have the description, so people kind of know what we're talking about. A little bit.
Yeah, I was only brought back because I saw the look on your face.
Yeah, because I was like, I was sort of indicating, like, who are we in this World Showcase? It's a big topic. There's been a lot of rumored countries for years. Disney's even advertised countries for years. They still have that. They still have that festival space that they use for like the small little displays of the little countries every now and again, which one would think would be like a test run to see if they have I forgot the word that I was going to use. But if they have the capability to run an entire large pavilion. And there's one that has been rumored for a very long time that I think we're going to be discussing the most.
It's been a couple of years now, and word on the street is that Brazil is going to be the 12th country to be represented at the World Showcase. This is really exciting, and I think that this country is really the best choice for the next pavilion, because the country is so ripe with history, culture, food, landmarks, all sorts of things that make it so vibrant. And not only that, but the tourism that comes into Walt Disney World. We see a lot of wonderful Portuguese people that come to visit, and I'm sure that they would love to see their country represented.
Well, there's something else that I've been noticing over our past couple of months of weekly visits to the Walt Disney World Resort is that there are Portuguese translators at almost every major attraction, or at the very least information booths. I first noticed it at the Skipper's Cantina. We were walking by and I saw somebody with khaki shorts and green shirt and the Brazilian flag, and I was just like, oh, that's interesting. And I didn't really think much of it. And then I saw another one later that night at a different park. And then this when we were at Hollywood Studios a couple weeks ago, I noticed a bunch of them, and then I've just been noticing them more and more and more. And yeah, there's been a lot of Brazilian or Portuguese tourists that have been visiting seemingly at a higher number if they have dedicated translators for it. But I wonder if that's also
courting,
and not necessarily just courting, but an indicator of the true catering that they're going to be doing. And I forget when it was, but there was a rendering leaked quite some time ago of a bit of the Brazil pavilion. I keep wanting to call it the Brazilian. Right now, it's rumored to go in between Germany and Italy.
Yes.
Yeah. So
basically, the entrance is reported to be where the Germany miniature train is now. If that is the case, I do hope that they move the train more deeper into the Germany pavilion so that people can still enjoy it. Of course, if anyone has followed EPCOT's history, especially for the Germany pavilion, you know there's a lot of space that is hiding behind a certain wall deeper inside.
But well, I mean, also there was always plans for expansion. There's always been plans for more countries to be added to the World Showcase, and this isn't the only plot of land that they're using. However, there is the plot close to France that is being used for the Ratatouille attraction,
right.
And so, but at the same time, there could always be more land. There's always room, and the design of World Showcase lends itself to tightening a little bit here, adding a little bit here, etc. And you know, like the Japan Pavilion is getting a new restaurant, so that's sort of digging into a little bit to the left, but they still have a lot of room behind, or they did have room where the Fuji coaster was going to go. Does Germany still have place where the Rhine River cruise was going to go? Like I think they've already used some of that land at the very least.
From what I've heard, it's just kind of a storage area.
And at the same time, if Galaxy's Edge is any sort of an indicator from Disneyland, if there's a good enough idea, they'll move stuff.
Yeah.
Like the infrastructure is there, and the EPCOT overhaul is gonna take probably a good decade at the very least. And with this pavilion, the idea is that the first wave, the first iteration of it, isn't going to have an attraction, but it's just going to be shopping and food. And there's going to be a churrascaria, a Brazilian steakhouse.
And interestingly enough, too, to back that up even more, Disney recently sent out surveys about dining for EPCOT to EPCOT visitors, asking, hey, was there a type of dining that you were kind of missing out on, that you were surprised wasn't there, that you were disappointed wasn't there? And they were heavily referencing a lot of Brazilian type foods and
Central
dining.
America? So Central and South American stuff? Or specifically Brazil?
Specifically Brazil.
Okay.
I mean, they had they had lots of other things too. But like literally one of the options was a Brazilian steakhouse, and I was like, ha ha ha, yes, Disney, I see you right there, and yes, I want it. Please give it to me. Please put all of that delicious meat in my mouth.
Do you want to take that again? Well, I'm going to move on to something else. One of the things about I mentioned the rendering, one of the things that I find interesting, and I wonder if they would actually keep it, when you think Brazil, is there a monument that comes to mind?
The Christ,
the Redeemer.
Yeah,
Christ
the
Redeemer
Redeemer
is the name of the statue, and it's in the concept art, and I wonder if that will come to pass. To be completely honest,
I mean, it's really iconic.
It's very iconic. It's also it's pretty.
It's religious, but it's also it is inherently tied to the identity of Brazil. I think it would be a mistake not to include it because it's just kind of pretending that it's not there.
I don't think that's necessarily true either. I think there, there's a lot of you can hit it with the architecture. That whole you can hit it with a heavy rainforest theme. There's a lot of stuff in Brazil. Like when it comes to this pavilion, now you get the food, but entertainment options where it's carnival every day.
Yes.
That's pretty rad. At the very least, I'm sure there's going to be some sort of a parade at opening that will last maybe the summer that it opens, or maybe there, similarly to how it's Oktoberfest every day in the Germany Pavilion, maybe there's some experience where at night you get to and actually there's precedence for it. So it's Oktoberfest every day there, and the reason why the Mexico Pavilion is indoors is because that type of atmosphere is more tied to the nighttime.
Yes.
So I wonder if in order to get more sort of carnival shows, what if it's an indoor pavilion and so it's night all the time and it's just an ongoing party?
It's possible. It's 100% possible.
Maybe.
It'd be so cool.
Do you have hopes for this pavilion?
Well, I know that also word on the street right now is that it's not going to initially open with an attraction. I'm hoping that that's wrong. World Showcase needs more rides, let's be honest here, and half of them right now are... Okay, so half of the attractions are movies. They're great movies, don't get me wrong. I love them, but I'd like to be on a moving vehicle that moves for me for, a good 10, 15 minutes. That makes me happy.
You want to hear something unprecedented? It's something that I've talked to you about before and something that this article reminded me of. You have a hanging omnimover similar to Horizons.
Yes.
So you have a flight-esque, a flight dark ride based on the 20th Century Fox franchise Rio. And first entrance of those and it doesn't have to be specifically Rio the ride, but if you have it's just a flight through the jungles and it has a conservationist message and you see like a family of blue macaws in the background, sort of like a Mr. Limpet or an Evan Rude on the Sensational Parade, something to where it's just like, it's Rio, or like something for the kids to notice. Then you can sell Rio stuff in the gift shop.
You could,
but it doesn't. So that way, it doesn't necessarily have to be a Rio thing, but it's in there. It's an acknowledgement. You get a little bit the best of both worlds, but you get that sort of the idea of flight. So you have a legit flying ride as opposed to Soarin', but you get that Horizons cred back, and you have a conservationist message. You fly through the beaches, you fly through the jungles, and it ends at Carnival, so that when you get off the ride, it's Carnival.
And that would be rad, just exiting into a party, pretty much.
Flying over like a football match.
Well, honestly, that's what I'm hoping for. And the one leaked concept art for flying over Brazil that I've seen has not just the ride vehicle with the guests kind of peering out, but there are some players playing football, and you see a couple of different things in the background as well. I'd love to see Sugarloaf Mountain and I think too that those gondolas are related to that. I think that it would be clever for you to start at Sugarloaf Mountain as though you're getting on one of the gondolas there, because that's a very famous attraction in Brazil. You can go visit the rainforest. 60% of the rainforest is actually in Brazil, so it makes so much sense. And I mean, yeah, we get a little slice of the rainforest in the land, and I love that.
And a tiny bit in Mexico.
But I'd love to see so much more. You know, there's something really magical about the rainforest. I'd love to see Christ the Redeemer. Like you said, the beaches, carnival, a little bit of samba going on somewhere. There's so much that they could do with that. And it would be their Peter Pan ride for Epcot. It would be magical. It would be beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, that's not to say that that's really it, but when it comes to dining, you have street food, which can act as your quick service location. You've got the main restaurant, the churrascaria, that acts as your main restaurant. You have street vendors. It's a formula that works at all of the other, that has worked at all of the other pavilions in one way or another, and it's just sort of taking that template and applying the Brazil skin on it. And this seems like a no-brainer. There are a lot of countries that sort of seem like a no-brainer. Brazil is one of those. Is there anything else we want to hit in Brazil before we move on to like other countries that we want to see?
Well, just in general, and this was also a part of the survey that came out, Disney was asking if people were kind of looking for a tapas restaurant. And I think that is needed, especially for all of the more young adult groups that do hit Epcot, you know, do the drinking and the food. You know, there should be a legit dancing area too if we're going to be in Brazil, right? There should be a nice dance area to really get people involved.
So there's gonna be stuff in the Play Pavilion, but I agree. If there was some sort of in Knott's Berry Farm.
Well, we don't want to go.
No, but the last time we went to Knott's, we saw a DJ giving a little bit of a dance lesson. It was like the cha-cha slide or something like really lame, but it was like the wrong way to do it. And if anybody has that frame of reference, if not, go to Knott's Berry Farm and see it for yourself. But if there is some way to get, I think just there's something so infectious about samba beats or the world of Carnival in general. It's a rhythm that can't be denied, sort of a thing. And if there's one thing that we've seen in Epcot in all of our visits recently, it's been, man, drunk people love to dance.
I mean, you can't really get people to dance comfortably unless they're a little not sober.
I mean, it depends.
Depends on how much someone embraces life and their anxiety levels.
Yeah, I suppose so. But I like that. I like that idea, and it seems like such a no-brainer. Like, I know I said that already, but Brazil's a no-brainer. I think India's a no-brainer. But, but I think the only thing there is you take the iconic building is the Taj Mahal, and that's a mausoleum, and so that could be disrespectful if you want to remake that sort of a. So that's the thing of what iconic feature can you add to an India pavilion to give it that little bit of zhuzh. It's
really tricky for Disney to court these different countries and actually get this off of the drawing board. There's so many concepts that Imagineering has gone through to try to add more countries to World Showcase. And a lot of them have gotten really far into development. And then at the last minute, there might be a regime shakeup, for example. And suddenly the new person in charge doesn't want to have anything to do with it, or it becomes a really risky PR move. Or, for example, Spain was supposedly in the works for a while recently, but then not too long ago, rumor has it fell apart. Disney was supposedly really planning on the film that they were working on, Gigantic, which is Jack and the Beanstalk,
But
essentially.
it took place in Spain instead.
Exactly. Like, they really had their hopes high on that, but the movie kind of fell apart in development, and I don't know about how things were going down with Spain specifically, but if any one of these factors just doesn't hold up, just the entire thing falls apart. They need to get the funding and the okay from the country to go ahead and do it. The country has to feel confident with what's going to be done. And when they are 100% backing it, it's beautiful. If you look at Morocco, for example, the prince himself sent his own personal architects over to Disney to make sure that everything looked and felt and was built to actually truly represent what Morocco is. And that's really fantastic when you can get that kind of teamwork and effort, but you have to have everything fall into place.
Because, like, Norway, it didn't quite fall into place. There was some stuff where the country stifled some of the creativity of the Imagineers, and the ride was going to be a lot more fantastical as opposed to, quote, legit and a storytelling ride. But hey, boat rides are always a fun thing.
Yes.
So Spain seemed like a sure thing. India, seems like a sure thing because there's rumor that there was going to be some sort of a Jungle Book in inclusion, and by having India, then you have the placement there. Cool. But I think something to sort of placate the Maelstrom fans while doing something new and maybe have some bit of an inspiration from Disney, though I think if they went in the opposite direction to be better, and we've talked about this too, is if there was a Grease pavilion.
Yes.
And I'm not talking about Grease being the word. We're talking, oh man,
Grease is the
that just,
word,
oh god,
it's the word,
I don't remember
it's the word.
what the concept of the episode was, but there was an episode of Drawn Together. I was just reminded of it, where they flew to the country of Greece and landed and got out the plane, and it was Rydell High, and it was so I laughed my butt off. That it's sometimes that show has definitely not aged well when it comes to public appropriateness. Man,
comedies never age well,
and especially that one when it was trying to be like a raunchy show. But sometimes their stuff was just stupid enough to land really hard, and that was one of those things that really tickled me. Especially so just as a little bit of background for everybody, I'm not Greek. However, I went to a Greek Orthodox school from kindergarten to 8th grade. Do I remember any Greek? A little bit. Ohi, that means no. Prono pausto bagno, where is the bathroom? And Milo is apple. That's what I remember. That's everything. And the Kala Christuyana, Merry Christmas, Kalo Pascha, Happy Easter.
Mark loves baklava.
Kala Christuyana. No, I already said that. Christos anesti, alethos anesti, Christ is risen, truly he is risen. Yeah, mostly
Orthodox.
Most of the church call and response stuff, like Happy Easter. But no. So the Greek culture has been a part of my life for a lot of it, even though I don't speak it. But I think you kind of double down on some stuff that Morocco gets. You go a little bit lighter. Instead of doing the inner city, you go coastal. So you get like Santorini or Crete or one of the beautiful coastal cities. So that would be okay. Here you go. Here's the Greece pavilion. You enter in a marketplace, but as you get to the outside, you start to see the ocean. And you go to the back of the pavilion, and there's this huge facade that sees the ocean, and then that's where you get onto the Odyssey attraction, where it's based on the Homer's Odyssey. as opposed to Disney's Hercules, which has...
I do think that they would want to go the Hercules route, especially because they're doing a live action film.
Yeah, I know, and Alexander Skarsgård is ruined for Herc. That's great. But, I guess you didn't know that news.
Excuse me?
Yeah. I have often dreamed of a shirtless man. His name is Alex from the Skarsgård clan. But thank you. My name is Michael Bolton. I take reservations. What? But I personally, I think that an Odyssey attraction could leave. Okay, so what's the most popular or most talked about attraction from Tokyo Disney?
Journey to the Center of the Earth.
What's the other one? Sinbad, that's right. So...
Oh, right. Yeah.
So you don't necessarily go... You could go Sinbad style, storybook style, and you tell the story of Odysseus as he leaves for Troy, insults Poseidon. So then, essentially... Alan
Menken has his work cut out for him now.
But essentially, it's a gods and monsters sort of a ride. So it's got a little bit of Maelstrom. It's got a little bit of Sinbad. And so you have then Odysseus, and you can, because so here's the thing. Hercules is in the Odyssey. He dies in it.
I totally forgot this. It's been a long time since I've read the Odyssey.
And we reread it several times. Or actually, no, I'll say this. We watch the Armando Sante movie like once a year.
Oh.
So, but either way, Heracles is in it, and a lot of other Greek heroes are in it. It involves the gods. It involves a lot of mythological stuff. And in terms of a ride, it's one that makes other than Indiana Jones, it would make the most sense of getting back to home. It's a baked in boat ride, and it's one that makes sense.
And you could actually have waterfall splashes.
You leave from Ithaca, you experience the war, you get lost at sea because you insult Poseidon, you encounter the Cyclops, you get lost on the Sirens Island, and make it home with Odysseus, who fires the arrow through all of the axe handles, living happily ever after. And because then you leave from Ithaca, you come back to Ithaca, and boom, I think it's itching for an original ride concept, and it's one where if the Greek government were involved, I think they would push more for an Odyssey attraction than they would for a Hercules one. But
that's the one problem right now, because Greece doesn't exactly have the money to fund it so much.
And then it would be like, okay, do you want to pay for an Odyssey attraction, or are we going to fit the bill for this attraction and make it a Hercules one?
Yeah.
But then do you go for a realistic Hercules look, or do you just do a Fantasyland Dark Ride Plus style attraction? But the Odyssey, I think, works with my interior look at the ocean, and then you get on the ride and you're on the ocean, and
Well, and I believe too that was an original concept idea that they had played around with at Imagineering, so it's not per se impossible. I would love to see it. I think that would be great. And that was also before they had the musical talents of Alan Menken. Now it could be magical.
Maybe, but you get food. That's another place where
a street
fair.
I love Mediterranean food.
Well, Greek food, everything has its own flavors.
Sure.
Greek food, man, when it's good, it's good.
Mm.
I'll say that. But it seems so. I was looking for I was looking for some stuff in terms of what has there ever been history of a Greece pavilion, and there's just a lot of blogs of why they should add a Greek pavilion into Epcot. Are you looking it up in a book?
Yes.
Okay.
Keep talking.
I mean, I don't know. So yeah, I ultimately Greece is something that's kind of close to me in my heart, and I've always loved the Odyssey myth. Heck, get Armando Sante to reprise the role of Odysseus, arguably his most famous role. I think have you found it?
Yeah, it's not there. I just know that I've read it somewhere in my OCD investigations of Epcot's history. I know that you want Greece. I want it too.
But no, I agree with what you're saying about like the government not having the money to foot the bill.
Like that's what makes me so worried, because literally all of my research, every single time it's like Disney makes the presentation, they're like, look at all this amazing stuff that we've come up with, and it's going to cost this much. And then the government goes, you want us to pay for that? Okay, thanks, bye. And then everything falls apart, and it's so sad.
Very sad. Was there one that you have a grand idea for?
I just want Sweden, but that's a selfish reasoning for
It's
it.
not necessarily selfish. I think if you can
Sponsored by IKEA.
The Swedish pavilion is just a giant IKEA. But
learn how to build things with a very very ambiguous instruction book.
But at the same time,
and then hate yourself
I
later.
Think if there's room on one of the sides of Norway, you can put Sweden in there. You could put a little Sweden representation, Sweden and Denmark, and just make it the Nordic pavilion.
Well, and it was originally supposed to just be Scandinavia.
Scandinavia, that's the word I'm looking for.
Both Sweden and Denmark were a part of all of those talks, but they kind of left. I know that Sweden was a part of the Millennium celebration. I don't remember if Denmark was.
I can take a look.
Sweden contributed to a giant egg, which, if you are fans of this podcast and listen, you know how much I love eggs.
Egg. Well, I mean, it's a cultural thing. But what would you want in a Sweden pavilion?
I want a magical Dala Hest ride, which are these little wooden horses, basically. So this was also in Maelstrom, but just in general, Scandinavia culture has a lot of troll folklore, and I still love the original ideas for what Maelstrom / Sea Venture was supposed to be, that Imagineering had originally come up with. And I think that would still be something really cool. And I don't think that they're going to build it, but I think that, hey, maybe they could do something and tie it with Thor, with Marvel. I think that would be really cool on a trip to Asgard.
Did they tie it to Sweden, or did they tie it to Norway?
Scandinavia.
Okay, just Scandinavia.
Because
okay.
The thing is, Scandinavia in general, they share these stories and these things. They're not large countries by themselves, and they end up borrowing a lot of bits of language between each other, which is why, you might come from Norway, but if you listen to someone speaking in Swedish, you might be able to follow along and kind of haphazardly be able to respond.
Yeah.
It's very similar. But I'd like to see... Disney has always succeeded in retellings of of famous stories from different cultures, right? This is like with the Odyssey, for example. I'd like to see that with some of these old fairy tales that haven't really been played on yet.
If they could figure out a cool way to involve Jormungandr, the world serpent, of like in
Excuse
every
me?
Jormungandr,
I don't know who
the
this
world
is.
serpent.
Okay.
I'll say it again.
Oh, no.
See if you understand. So the nerd world at large has become a little bit more involved in Norse myth, thanks to the most recent God of War taking place in the world of Norse mythology. And one of the interactions that Papa Kratos has is with Jormungandr, the world serpent, who exists always and forever and can see through time. And Thor has a famous meeting with the world serpent.
Oh.
Yeah. So
was there a delegation involved?
no, it was a fight.
Okay.
But it's always very fun to say the word Jormungandr.
As long as Chris Hemsworth
reprises his role.
Yes, then I'm all for this. He's
Maybe.
the perfect representation for Thor.
He's a good one.
I'm not going to accept anyone else for this.
Well, you might have to. So looking back at the Millennium Celebration, there's a lot of other countries that you know it's a country that I've mentioned before that I thought would be pretty easy to be represented was Australia. Like, that's one of the largest continents in the world and has a lot of history.
Yeah.
And has a lot of potential as an EPCOT pavilion. But looking back here, I'm going to list everything that had some sort of a display. So not just so there's a lot here. Ethiopia, India, Kenya, New Zealand, Indonesia, South Africa, Israel, Namibia, Brazil, Chile, Eritrea, Saudi Arabia, Scotland, Sweden, Village Green, Lebanon, Peru, Thailand, Egypt, Greece, Korea, Venezuela.
Thailand would be something.
Another Asian country.
Yeah.
I think Latin America or South America. So Brazil,
Yeah.
but would be another good represent. So I think now that we're going through like continents and major chunks of world and countries, chunks of country, there's we have a lot of Europe. Not to say that there isn't a lot of history in Europe.
Sure.
But Brazil will be our first South America. In terms of Africa, we have Morocco. So I would say more Africa representation.
Yeah. And I mean, I know that even though Equatorial Africa was like one of the first things that they put up on a billboard saying, hey, we're going to build this, things kind of escalated and then it turned into Animal Kingdom.
But there is still that little bit of African representation.
Yeah.
That's that little checkpoint, and that could easily be expanded a little bit further behind.
Definitely.
And maybe we'll get the answer to the question: do you ever think you could love a sausage? But other than that, it's now. I think it's time to really start going to other places. I saw a rumor mill of. You want to know what ultimate brand integration to World Showcase would be? A Wakanda pavilion.
Oh yeah, everyone's been saying that.
Yeah, and okay, cool, great. Let's get Africa in there. And if you want to have allusions to Wakanda, cool.
They have to be secretive, you have to stumble upon it by accident because it's so hyper tech.
Yeah, something like that.
That
Why
would
not?
be rad.
And
then if you're white, you can't see it.
And there's a lot of jokes there. But that now we've got a lot of Europe. So now
Yeah.
let's move to other places.
I will say, though, it would be really rad if in the Great Britain section, if they did some sort of a Shakespearean attraction.
A Shakespeareans, if you will.
Yes. Led by, who else? Puck.
Oh, sure. Like, what does GB have going for them? The gardens? Gardens in the pub?
Pretty much.
Yeah, because wasn't there a rumored Mary Poppins attraction if the movie did well?
Yeah. Well, I think it was long before
Returns?
it was long before the sequel. I think it was just something they always talked about. Actually, one of Tony Baxter's first overall concepts for an attraction that he put together was a Mary Poppins ride. Of course, he didn't envision it for EPCOT at the time, I don't think.
Oh, okay.
I think he was picturing it for Disneyland back in the day.
So, I mean, so there's a lot of, the places we can go.
Yeah.
And if there's a country that you want to see, we want to hear from you at Party of Two Pod on Twitter. If you're listening to us on Anchor or not, go to anchor.fm/partyoftwopod. You can leave us a voice message and we can discuss it on a future episode. We're kind of just trucking towards D23, and we would love to accumulate all of the voice messages that we get and do sort of like a post-mortem on EPCOT once we have the announcements. So yeah, we even if it feels like you're leaving messages and we're not acknowledging them, we do appreciate them, but we're trying to sort of truck through, keep these sort of on topic as we blow past, and then we'll do sort of like a mailbag episode after D23.
Absolutely. And if there's anything that you want us to focus on for any of the panels or events that are coming up at D23, send us a message on it if there's something you want to talk about. If you guys want to do a little meetup that weekend, we're going to be there. We'd be happy to do it, even if it's just to grab a bite to eat or a drink or something. We'd love to hear from you. Or meet up for the
Parks panel.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to be there, and we'd love to see you guys and hear from you and all that jazz.
But until D23, I mean, we're going to be doing more shows, but still, just as sort of a wrap-up phrase, until D23, where can they keep up with us personally? Andrea, what's your socials?
You can find me on Instagram and on Twitter at DoleWhipDrea. Love me the pineapple.
Heck yeah. And you can find me at Mark B. Donica on Instagram and Twitter. Just a whole bunch of random biz. There's a whole lot of stuff that could be coming up for me that would be really exciting, and I'd love for you to follow along with the journey. I think the best place to get a random sort of update for me would be my Instagram story, just because those are gone in 24 hours, and I feel a little bit more like, yeah, I could post this here. So sometimes I don't post stuff on Instagram until like a day or two after it goes up on my Instagram stories. So yeah, follow me there. Follow me on Twitter. Follow us at Party of Two Pod. Andrew, do you want to take us out?
Join us on the friendship boat at D23, and we'll see you on the next Sailing Around the World ride.